You're pulled in at the side of the road, the checks have come back, and it's clear the officer has got nothing on you, no smell, nothing in view, no reason to go any further. And that's exactly the moment he leans to your window and says the line, "Tell you what, we'll get a drug dog down here and have a proper look." And your stomach drops because it sounds like the walls are closing in, like a search is now inevitable, and you might as well just let him get on with it. So a lot of good, innocent people, right there, say the words that hand him everything. "Yeah, fine, go on then, search it, I've got nothing to hide." Stop, because that sentence, "search it, I've got nothing to hide," is very often the officer's whole goal. The drug dog line isn't a statement of what's about to happen. 9 times out of 10 it's a lever, and it's pulling for one thing, your consent. Because here's the quiet truth of that moment. If he could lawfully search your car, he wouldn't need to threaten you with a dog. He'd just be searching it. So let me give you the ground you're actually standing on, and then the exact words right up front. In England and Wales, to search your car for drugs, the police need reasonable grounds to suspect that you, the people in the car, are carrying controlled drugs. That's the law, Section 23 of the Misuse of Drugs Act. Reasonable grounds means something real and objective, a genuine smell of cannabis, something on view, real information, not a hunch, not a feeling, and crucially, not the fact that you seem nervous, and not the fact that you won't consent. A threat to fetch a dog that isn't even there is not grounds for anything. So here is your sentence, and I'm giving it to you now in the first few minutes, so you've got it even if you have to click away. When the officer floats the drug dog, you say, calmly and politely, "I don't consent to any search, officer. What are your grounds?" That's it. "I don't consent to any search. What are your grounds?" 2 calm lines. And notice what they do together. The first shuts the door on the easy way in, the consent he was fishing for, and the second makes him put his cards on the table, because if he genuinely has grounds, he doesn't need your permission, and he'll tell you what they are. And if he doesn't, that question is the loudest silence you'll ever hear. Now stay with me, because there is one thing, that turns that empty dog threat into a real, lawful search. And if you don't know what it is, you'll get this exactly wrong. You'll either panic and consent when you never had to, or stay stubborn at the precise moment you should be cooperating. I'm going to show you exactly what that one thing is, and how to tell the difference on the roadside before this is over. First, let me show you why "I've got nothing to hide" is the most expensive sentence you can say. I'm Oliver Bennett, a criminal defence solicitor here in England and Wales, and for 15 years I've watched people with genuinely nothing to hide turn a 2-minute stop into an hour on the verge with their car in pieces, not because of what the police found, but because of the word yes they never had to give. Let me make sure that's never you. So let's be clear about what consent actually does, because this is the whole game. If the police have reasonable grounds, they can search your car whether you like it or not. Your consent is irrelevant. The power exists on its own. So think about what it means when an officer is asking for your permission or nudging you toward it with a dog he hasn't got. It means in that moment he very probably does not have the power to do it without you. Your yes isn't you being helpful. Your yes is the missing key. You are handing him the one thing he was short of. And here's the sting that catches people. Once you've said yes and the search is underway, you can't easily take it back. You can't get 3 minutes in, watch him pull your seats apart and say, "Actually, I've changed my mind." So the only safe moment to make this decision is before it starts, and the decision is simply, politely, no. And because so much of this turns on the word grounds, let me nail down what is not grounds, because these are the 4 things officers lean on, and none of them on its own is enough. Being nervous is not grounds. Everybody is nervous when they're pulled over, the guilty and the innocent alike, and the law knows it. Refusing to consent is not grounds. You cannot be punished or searched for exercising a right. If declining a search was suspicious, the right wouldn't exist. Being in a so-called known area, or driving a certain car, or being a certain age, is not grounds. That's a profile, not a fact about you. And having something on your record from years ago is not, by itself, grounds for today. Reasonable grounds have to be specific, objective, and about this moment. Something a fair-minded person, given the same facts, would agree points to drugs in that car right now. A feeling isn't it. A stereotype isn't it. And a threat about a dog certainly isn't it. Let me put a face on it. Imagine a young lad driving home late from a mate's, tired, taxed, insured, nothing in the car. He gets stopped, and because he's young and it's late and he's a bit anxious, the officer fancies a look, but hasn't got a single lawful reason for one. So out comes the line, "We'll get a dog down, unless there's something you want to tell me." The lad, terrified of the dog and desperate to seem cooperative, says, No, just search it." An hour later, he's watched his car turned over for nothing, and he's learned the worst possible lesson, that being innocent wasn't enough, when actually it was. He just gave away the one thing that stood between him and that hour. His nerves weren't grounds. His youth wasn't grounds. Only his yes was. And that's why you also don't answer the little questions that come wrapped around the threat. Anything in the car I should know about? When did you last have a smoke? Whose car is this? You are not obliged to answer any of that, and every answer is either a fact he can use or a wobble he can call nervousness. You stay pleasant, you stay quiet on the substance, and you let your two calm lines do all the work. I don't consent. What are your grounds? And you'll hear the oldest line in the book somewhere in here. Well, if you've got nothing to hide, you'll let me look. It's a clever little trap because it dresses your rights up as an admission, as if only a guilty person would ever say no. So have the reframe ready, in your own head if not out loud. Declining a search isn't about hiding anything, it's about not doing the police's job for them and not signing away a protection that exists for a reason. Locking your front door doesn't mean you've got a body in the cellar. Wanting a receipt doesn't mean you think the shop's robbing you. And declining a roadside search you don't have to allow doesn't mean there's anything in the car. It means you understand that nothing to hide and I'll give up my rights are not the same sentence, no matter how warmly the second one is suggested. Now here's a pattern interrupt worth its weight in gold, because people tie themselves in knots over it. Being polite is not the same as being compliant, and being silent is not the same as being obstructive. You can say, "Good evening, officer, hope you're all right," and mean it, and still not consent to a search, and still not answer his questions. The law doesn't ask you to be rude to protect yourself. It asks you to know the difference between what you must do, stop, and if you're the driver, give your details and documents, and what you're merely being invited to do, which is to consent and to talk. Do the first, decline the second, warmly. So the thing I told you to wait for, when can that dog threat actually become a lawful search? Here it is, plainly. A drug dog is real, and its work is real. If a trained passive drug dog is actually brought to the scene and gives a positive indication on you or your car, that indication can form part of reasonable grounds for a search. That's the honest answer. A dog is not a bluff in every case. A dog that turns up and indicates is a genuine building block of grounds. But look closely at everything that sentence requires, because this is where the roadside threat falls apart. The dog has to actually be there. It has to be a trained dog, handled properly. It has to give a real indication. And even then, good practice is that a single factor on its own, a dog's indication all by itself, shouldn't be the whole of the grounds. It sits alongside other things. A hypothetical dog, 20 minutes away, that the officer is using as a stick to get your consent right now, that is none of those things. It is a maybe, being used as a certainty to get a yes he can't otherwise obtain. And it's worth being honest about where drug dogs really do get used, so you can tell the theatre from the real thing. Passive drug dogs are a genuine, routine tool in specific settings, at some train stations, at festivals and big events, in authorised operations in certain areas. In those places, a dog is actually present and working, and an indication there genuinely feeds into grounds. That is a world away from a lone officer on a dark A road with no dog for miles, floating the idea of one to move you toward a yes. Same two words, drug dog, doing two completely different jobs. In one, it's a real tool that's actually there. In the other, it's a prop in a sentence. Part of keeping your head is knowing which one you're actually looking at. And if the dog isn't there, it isn't doing anything to you yet. Which brings us to the clock, because this is the pressure behind the threat. "We'll get a dog down here" carries a hidden second half. So you're going to be sat here a long time unless you just let me look. So know this, the police can only detain you, keep you there, for as long as is reasonable to do the thing they lawfully have grounds to do. If they have grounds to search, they can hold you a reasonable time to search, dog or no dog. But if they have no grounds, they cannot simply park you on the verge indefinitely, waiting on a dog that may or may not come, in the hope you'll crack. That's why the other half of your calm sentence matters so much. If the questions and the waiting drag on, you ask it, "Am I being detained, officer? And if so, on what grounds?" You are making him convert his vague pressure into a lawful reason, out loud. And if he hasn't got one, the honest answer to, "Am I free to go?" is yes. Now, the honest catch, because I will never handle you aright without its edges. Sometimes there genuinely are grounds. Sometimes there really is a smell of cannabis coming out of that car, or something sitting in plain view on the back seat, or real information about the vehicle. When that's the case, the search is lawful, the dog or no dog, and your consent was never the point. In that situation, you do not physically resist. You never fight a search with your hands. You simply state, once, that you don't consent, so it's on the record. You note the officer's name and number, and you let it happen and take advice afterwards. And you'll know a lawful search is happening because the law makes him tell you, before he starts, a specific set of things. Officers are trained to it under a checklist you may have heard of, sometimes remembered by the word, "Go wisely." He should give you his name and the station he's from, tell you the object of the search, what he's actually looking for, tell you the legal power he's using, and, crucially, the grounds for it. And he should tell you you're entitled to a record of the search. That's not red tape. It's the difference between a search and a violation. If you're getting all of that, clearly and properly, this is the real thing. You don't resist it. You note it. You take advice after. But if what you're getting instead is, "Come on, just let me have a quick look, save us all the hassle of a dog," no grounds stated, no power named, just a friendly nudge toward yes, then understand exactly what that is. It's the sales pitch, not the power. A real search doesn't need to be sold to you. It just gets explained to you, and then it happens. And know the line between searching your car and searching you, because the threat sometimes shifts. To pat you down or search your person for drugs, the police need the same thing, reasonable grounds under Section 23, about you. Step out of the car on its own is not a search, and you can usually step out calmly without it costing you anything. But stepping out is not consenting to be searched, and it's not answering questions. If it moves to a search of your body, the same calm approach holds. You don't physically resist, you ask the grounds, you note the details. Your pockets, like your car, are not open to a fishing trip just because a dog was mentioned. So don't ever lie either, that's the last piece. Don't invent a reason, don't make up where you've been, don't tell him the car's clean if you don't know that. Silence is lawful. A lie can be an offence all of its own. Where you're not required to speak, you say nothing of substance. Where you are required to speak, your driver's details, you tell the plain truth. And to the dog threat and the "Have you got anything?" and the "Why not just let me look?" your answer is the same calm pair of lines every single time. And if you're sitting there thinking, "Too late, Oliver, I'm the bloke who's already said, yeah, search it," more than once, don't be hard on yourself. Nobody had ever told you there was another option, and being cooperative isn't a crime. It's a decent instinct that gets quietly used against decent people. The point of all this was never guilt about last time. It's the calm 2 lines in your mouth for next time. And going forward, remember you can decline consent the very next time without a word about any time before. Each stop stands on its own. One old, "Go on then," doesn't oblige you to a lifetime of them. There's also a fair question people ask. Won't refusing just make them more determined? And I'll be straight. An officer who is going to be difficult may bristle. But you are not responsible for managing his mood. You are responsible for not handing away your rights. Staying calm, polite and firm doesn't give him grounds, and it doesn't make you guilty. What it does is keep the decision where it belongs, with the law, and with whether he actually has grounds, instead of with how uncomfortable a moment of silence feels. Let me make it real, the way it actually plays out. Picture two drivers, same lay-by, same evening, both with genuinely nothing in the car. The first, a good, obliging man, hears, "We'll get a dog down," and folds instantly. "No need for that, go on, search away, I've nothing to hide." And spends the next 50 minutes watching his boot get emptied onto the tarmac, his day gone, over a search the officer had no power to do until the man handed him the key. The second driver, no ruder, hears the same line and says, "I don't consent to any search, officer. What are your grounds?" The officer has none. There's a pause. And a stop that had nowhere to go goes nowhere. Because the one thing it needed, the man's permission, he calmly, politely declined to give. Same empty car, same innocence. One evening destroyed and one evening saved, on the strength of a single word not spoken. And here's the part that ought to make you angry on the first man's behalf. If it had ever gone further, it's the first man who'd have had the harder time of it, because he consented, he agreed to the whole thing, on the record, in his own voice, which makes it that much harder, later, to argue the search should never have happened. The second man kept every option open, precisely because he gave nothing away. Declining a search you don't have to allow isn't just about tonight. It protects every argument you might ever need to make about tonight, long after the blue lights have gone. Before I give you the final version to keep, one honest aside, because it's exactly what people message me about after the fact. Did I have to let them search? Could they really have got a dog? Was I allowed to say no? I put all of it in one place, in plain English, in the UK Know Your Rights Handbook. What the police can and can't search, when consent matters and when it doesn't. The exact words for the roadside, the door, and the phone. It's the thing I wish every driver had read before those blue lights ever appeared behind them. It's linked below if you want it, no pressure at all. It's simply everything I'd tell a friend. So here's where it all lands. When an officer reaches for the drug dog, understand what he's really reaching for, your consent. Because without grounds, he hasn't got a search without it. So you give him neither the consent nor the conversation. You stay warm, you stay calm, and you say the two lines that carry the whole thing. "I don't consent to any search, officer. What are your grounds? And am I free to go?" If he has real grounds, he'll tell you, and the search is lawful, and you let it happen. If he doesn't, you've just kept your evening, your car, and your rights, without raising your voice once. Do this today. Put that sentence in your phone and send it to the person you'd trust least to keep their cool at the side of the road. Because the drug dog threat only works on good people who don't know that a dog they can't see isn't a reason for anything. It stops working the second they do. If this might help someone you care about, give it a like so it reaches them, and subscribe. I break down one of these police lines in plain English every single week, so the next time you hear one, you already know exactly what to say. I'll see you there.